Good afternoon. Now, the purpose of this video is to explain to you the importance of understanding the difference between state and local policy. Now, state policy is something that the state would have control of if it affects the community. States have control of certain things such as establishing their local governments, issuing license, regulation of interstate commerce. They have a right to conduct their own elections. They ratify amendments to the U.S. constitutions, provide for public health and safety, exercise powers that are neither delegated to the national government or prohibited from the states. They can establish their own state wages. They set legal drinking and smoking ages and establish state constitution. Local governments or their policies mainly deal with public works, public assets such as sewer, solid waste, street maintenance, stormwater management, urban planning and zoning, economic development, parks, recreation, public education, police, fire, and human services. A few of these scenarios that I went over. The first one deals with the town of Smallburg, Missouri, and which is a small town which borders a larger city. Now, the issue here was to establish a school district for Smallburg. And how's that going to affect the citizens of Smallburg and Mid-City, Missouri also, which the children of Smallburg go to. Now, this is primarily a local policy issue. Now, public education is a service that is typically provided by the government. Now, the one who stands to benefit from this policy would be the Mid-City school system will benefit this policy, as it'll reduce the number of students in their school district, which will reduce their cost. It'll also benefit the children and the parents of Smallburg because they will have local schools to attend, which will mean the parents will not have to travel this far to take their children to school or to attend school functions. The negative impact on this is it would negatively impact the citizens of Smallburg, as they do not have children, because they're going to be taxed for the school system, even though they may not have children that attend there. This does seem like an unreasonable policy. As a society and a state, we have a responsibility to educate our children. Now, we elect local politicians to provide us with services such as public safety and education. Therefore, we should trust them to do what we elected them to do. If they don't, then we can always vote them out. Impacts of this policy, change on citizens specifically, would be, as I stated, financially, as they're going to be taxed more. It's going to impact traffic flow, and businesses would more than likely move in closer to the schools. The second scenario is dealing with snowplows that they want to purchase. And this will be a local policy issue. It deals with public works as well as parks and recreation. The benefit from this policy will be because it'll allow for more plows to keep the roads clear, which will in turn allow citizens to get their jobs and perform their much needed daily tasks. The negative impact would be on the parks, because by doing this, they would not be able to build parks. It's a reasonable policy. Fixing the snowplow problem should not mean the city should have to neglect the parks, though. I think a reasonable solution, as mentioned in the scenario, would be to hire more contractors. The impacts of this policy would impact the children, as they're not going to have a place to play if they do it the way they're planning. And the positive effect, of course, the citizens will be able to get back and forth to work. In our third scenario, it deals with the cost of living and wanting to do a wage increase. Now, this is also a state policy issue. They have exclusive power for that, and they have the right to set a minimum wage in their state. If the minimum wage is higher than the federal minimum wage, then the state's minimum wage takes precedence over that. It'll benefit the people who work in the towns and the cities in the state, stand to benefit from this policy as they will make more money in their jobs. The negative impact would be on the business owners because they're going to have to pay more to their employees, and they're going to pass that cost on to the citizens and the consumers. It does not seem reasonable to me, this policy does not, because of the effect it'll have on the consumers. By raising the minimum wage and passing that cost on to consumers, it will not make a difference in the cost of living that has affected the minimum wage workers, because they're going to pay more also. Higher wages will give workers more money per month, but that cost will also be passed on. The fourth scenario deals with a state highway and them wanting to improve the highway. Now, this is a state policy issue because the states do have exclusive power to regulate interstate commerce. The policy will benefit locals in the community and beachgoers. In the long run, it'll offer shorter commute times once the project is completed. The negative impact is, of course, going to be on commuters since the project is going to take several years to complete. The policy does seem reasonable because the state is addressing a problem that is having a negative impact on tourism as well as local residents. Here locally where I live, we have a similar situation where we have our business highways and they begin to deteriorate. Now on that, since it's an interstate, normally the state would handle something like that, but we have a local issue that the local politicians say it's the state's job. The state says it's no longer a major highway, so then it becomes the city's policy to handle that. And it's just a back and forth deal. As voters, we understand this, and we're constantly pushing and fighting to get something done. It should be as simple as them working together to solve the problem, split the cost, whatever they need to do. But apparently, they find it more complicated than that.